If you would like to see how I made this junk journal cover from this Amazon packaging, just keep on watching. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. I don't know about you, but my online purchases have increased since the pandemic. So the added bonus of purchasing online is that it comes in packaging, which is just perfect for creating all sorts of fabulous projects. These yellow stickers are awesome for collaging, so never throw those away. So today I'm making a junk journal cover out of this Amazon packaging that you see right here. I am just tearing off the bits that I don't want on my cover, and I will also be cutting away that flap on the right side, which of course you could keep if you want a flap for your cover, but I just wanted a very simple shape, so I will be cutting that off as well. I would like to mention that the style of this cover has been inspired by Robin Dudley House, who is the artsy bohemian, whose channel I will of course link below. Her grungy style really speaks to me, and I've learned quite a bit from her, so please go check out her videos if you enjoy the style that you're seeing in this video. The reason why I'm doing this with a voiceover is because honestly I had no clue what I was doing, and I wouldn't have known how to talk you through this because each step I was doing was an experiment and I had no vision of what the final product really would look like. So I thought this time it's better that I just go ahead and create and then talk you through what I did once I actually know what I was doing. I just thought you would get a better value out of that for this video, and I hope that's okay. So what you see me doing here is I'm just using some book pages, of which I have so many, and I'm adhering them with my matte medium from Liquitex and just covering the whole front and back side of my cover, going around the edges as well. This is a design team project for the Digital Collage Club, and I will list all the names of the digitals I used in the description box below. Let me show you quickly which ones I used for this cover and how the Digital Collage Club works. So the Digital Collage Club is a membership-based website with thousands of royalty-free digital collage sheets, vintage graphics, scrapbooking, card making, and digital craft supplies. You get instant access to all images, and the images are created especially for this club. So each week new images are added and you can sell whatever items you create with these images, and there are also no download limits. You can get either an annual access or lifetime access. With the link and coupon codes below, you get a $5 discount for the annual membership or a $10 discount for the lifetime membership. So this is one of the many uses for your book pages. I think when you're doing junk journals, you somehow always end up with a number of book pages, but if you don't have book pages, of course you can cover your packaging with anything else you have. It could even be magazine pages or newspaper pages, doesn't really matter. A lot of it could be covered up anyway. And if you need some more tips of what to do with your book pages, go check out my video about making some book page ephemera in case you haven't seen that yet and need some more inspiration. I will have that video linked in the description box for you as well. I started with the outside cover, and as you can see, I'm putting down the book pages so that they are overlapping the edge so that I can just bend them towards the inside cover. so that my edges will also be covered with book page. That is of course optional. It would probably be enough to just have the pages go to the edge of the packaging, especially if you then paint over it. I think that would be fine as well. I just wanted to try this way. And of course you also don't have to use a matte medium for this. You could use a regular glue, or like a glue stick would work really well. Just make sure that you do not have bubbles or anything, or wrinkles, if you don't want those in your cover. So I used my credit card type card like this, and always make sure that I've smoothed out the page before it dries, because I didn't want any wrinkles. So I think that was the last piece for the front. Yeah, so the front is done. And now for the inside, I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but now it's a lot easier because my edges are already covered and I just need to cover the inside. And I'm also not having my book pages all look in the same direction. So some are horizontal, some are vertical. I'm not sure if I put any upside down, but it really doesn't matter because in the end we won't really be able to read any of the text anyway. And this is quite sticky. I should have let one side dry before I did the other one, but you know how it goes with patience. But it was okay because I had this, I don't know what you call this, is like kind of like parchment paper or baking paper underneath, and that kind of worked if I lifted it off in between from time to time. And even though it might look like it in this video, this cover took me, I think, 2 full days, mostly because of the drying time of all the layers that I have, because I'm using a lot of wet media, but also because I really didn't know sometimes how to proceed, and especially at the end, I just wasn't sure what to do because I wasn't happy with the look. So it really had to kind of like sink in and sit with me for a while before I knew what else I wanted to add to make it look the way I wanted it to in the end. So now everything is covered and I'm just going to stand it up, and I had it dry overnight, so now everything is really nice and dry. And I had this piece of fabric, it's like a fabric strip that I had from something I cut down, and I just sprayed it with some coffee dye mix, and I'm going to sew that in the middle of my cover, which is going to be my closure. And you can either do it at this stage or you can do it later on. I wanted it to be grungy, so I wanted to sew it on now. And I'm sewing it on here with a black thread and a zigzag stitch, the biggest one I have actually. And then I'm using another zigzag stitch, but a smaller one, to go all around the cover. Now this is totally optional. You can just use glue. You don't have to do this machine stitching, but I did want the extra texture. Most of it is going to be covered up with gesso afterwards, but you do see it in some parts. I really like that look. So this is what it looked like after that fabric was sewn in, and I've sewn all the way around. You can leave this closure out completely as well if you don't want to have one, or you can do the closure from the outside as well. That's another option. So then I'm taking my gesso and my spatula, and I'm covering both the inside and the outside. I'm just showing you the inside because I'm doing exactly the same thing on the outside and I don't want to bore you. And as you can see, I'm going right over the fabric part in the middle as well. And I'm not trying to cover every single little speck, and I am trying to make it look grungy. So I don't want a very smooth surface. So then of course that had to dry again. So here you see that's the inside that we did on the camera, and there's the outside. I used exactly the same technique. And you see now the book pages are hardly visible anymore anyway, but you do see them peeking through. So my next thought is I have to grunge this up a little bit. So I decided to take my Distress Oxide tea dye, and I decided to go over the cover inside and outside directly with the ink pad, or the oxide pad I should say. And I really love how that turned out. But I then thought, well, you know, since this is water soluble, I do need to somehow seal that in, and I knew that by sealing it in, of course, this would change again and it would smear. But I thought, well, let's see what that looks like, and so I wanted to try that, although I really loved the way it looked like this. So then I took again my matte medium, so the same one I used for gluing down my book pages, and I took my paintbrush and I spread it all over the cover inside and outside quite generously. And of course there you see it changes the whole look of the Distress Oxide. So this is what it looked like once it was dry. You can't see even half of it, I would say, that was on there before, but that's okay. So now it was time to think about the focal point for my cover, and I wanted to use this lady on the bottom right. So I cut her out, and I think she's just gorgeous. I think she's perfect for a cover, and I did print her on some heavier cardstock, 160 GSM. And then I found this little file folder card, which was too wide, so I just cut it down with my paper trimmer. And I'm just going around it with my Vintage Photo Distress Oxide to make it look more vintage. And the feeling I wanted to have for this cover is I wanted it to have a lot of different layers and pockets, and I wanted it to be grungy. I wanted to add lace. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to accomplish here. So the first item I took to make it look a little bit more grungy was this used tea bag, which I just tore open, and I'm now adhering with a glue stick. And I'm kind of leaving the edges not attached because I wanted to have that kind of frayed look. And now I'm going around the edge with my tea dye Distress Oxide to make sure that it has this beautiful vintage patina. So this, I wanted to be a pocket. And then I also have this fun piece here, which is a packaging of a soap that I bought locally. And I wanted to keep this very cute packaging. It had some stitching on the side and the bottom, which I thought went perfectly with my cover. And so I thought I would use that as well, and then to add her to that pocket. So of course I'm grunching that up a little bit more with my Vintage Photo first. Then I'm just trying to see how that would look, but it needed something else there. So I wanted to add some florals because of course now we're moving into spring and I wanted some bright colorful florals. So these are the ones that I chose from the Digital Collage Club, and this one on the top right I thought was perfect in the colors for this cover. So I just cut that one out, and I already inked it up with my Vintage Photo on the edges, and I wanted to have that just kind of peeking out behind her. So I thought that was a pretty good start with the layers, but it was definitely not enough yet. So I'm trying to see how to place everything. I did want to add some more stitching, so I took it to my sewing machine and I stitched around the 3 edges so it would look like it's actually stitched onto the cover. So that is going to be a pocket. And then I went through my Tim Holtz Urban style pieces. I will link those for you as well on the bottom. And I wanted to find something that I could add to that pocket on top. And I wanted to figure that out before I glue anything down, because the size of those would depend on, or the other way around, it would depend where, on which height I adhere the pocket would depend on what I put in the pocket. Oh my gosh, that was a hard sentence. So I decide on those two pieces, but of course they were shiny and new looking, which of course wouldn't work with my cover. So I sand both of these pieces down so that you can still see the design, of course. But this would of course give them a much more vintage look. So I did that with both, and I paid especially attention to the edges because I, of course, am going to be adding my vintage photo on both of those, and especially on the edges. And I wanted my Distress Oxide to hold well. So that's the other one. It's kind of like a, I think it's a railroad timetable, and the other smaller one is a ticket. So now I'm just going over both of those with the vintage photo, and this just gives it a really nice vintage look. I really like how both of those turned out. So there's the bigger piece. And we'll do exactly the same thing for the smaller one. So that's always something you can do if you want to make your ephemera look more vintage, but it looks new and glossy. Always handy to have sandpaper. So those will go in the pocket up there. So now I knew approximately the height of where I could attach the pocket, and didn't have enough layers yet. So I thought I wanted to add some corrugated cardboard, which is always so fun in any collage. So I'm kind of treating this, of course, as a collage. It's a collage that happens to be on a cover. And I really like that look. But I also, yeah, here I was thinking like, my gosh, it's so thick in this pocket because it had a piece of soap in it, was quite bulky. So I was thinking whether I could actually use that. But in the end, I did use it. And here I'm just adding some more of the gesso to the spots of the corrugated cardboard that I know you would see. So I dried that with my heat gun, and then I'm going over that with my vintage photo again. And that's gonna go underneath this little bag. I'm just loving how those layers look, and then that goes on top. I was super happy with that, but it did need some more. So I found this half of a coffee stained doily, so I think that one works really well there as well. And then I knew I definitely wanted to use some lace, so I picked some out beforehand that I thought might work, and I'm just experimenting here a little bit to see what I would like. I actually did like that round one as well, but in the end I found something that was even better. And I also really like this lace trim. I think I might have gotten that at the flea market, not 100% sure. And I really wanted to use it, and I was trying to find a way that would work. And it took me a while to figure out the best spot for that. I thought I could add it maybe to the top of that file folder pocket, but actually that almost completely disappeared behind the other things, so I didn't like that either. So then I thought maybe I just need one of those little segments, and that is what ended up working out the best. Still thought I might use that round one. Then I went through my other pieces of lace, and I have this beautiful one which actually has butterflies. So it's not this piece. Trying out that first, but then I see, there you go, there's one of the butterflies, and they are just so beautiful. And so I knew I had to have this butterfly on the cover. Isn't it gorgeous? And so I knew this is the one that needs to go there. Sometimes you just know which one feels right, and that's beautiful when that happens. Sometimes you're sitting in front of a piece and you're trying one after the other forever and just nothing feels right. Do you know that feeling? And then I decided it's time that I glue things down, and I actually am using my glue gun, which, as you might know, is definitely not my favorite because I don't know, I'm just not good at it, and I don't like all the threads and then how easily you burn yourself and everything. So yeah, not a huge fan, but actually I have to admit it was really good for this cover because now I know everything is glued down really well and everything sticks down really well so quickly. So I did appreciate having it for this cover. And I did take a photo with my iPad of the way I had everything arranged before I took everything off because I was not feeling like I could really do my top-down gluing method for this for some reason, probably because of the glue gun, because I was intimidated. So I thought I need to start from the bottom, and so I just took a picture so I knew how everything was. So I'm also using that for the illustrations that I have there, trying to place everything just right. I do think I need a better glue gun. This was a cheap small one, and I have a bigger one as well, but I could not get it to work, so maybe I just need a bigger, better glue gun. Then I would use it more often. I always see Tina use it. Tina from Shabby Dabby Doodah, and I'm always in awe. She just uses it like such a pro. So lastly, I am attaching this butterfly. Then I'm adding the tickets. Then I started to also add this quote chip by Tim Holtz, which says choose to shine, and of course I had to vintage that up as well. I'm gonna add that with my glue gun. And then I decided it's not grungy enough, and I went over it with my vintage photo after having gone over it with my matte medium to seal everything in. Now I'm again going over it with some Distress Oxide, which is water soluble, but you will see later what I do. So I stick these back in and I'm like, no, something's not right yet. So I decide first of all that I need to put something on this timetable. So I fussy cut one of these other beautiful floral images and I inked that up as well, and then I just glued that on the timetable. I really like that. But it wasn't enough. I decided I need to add an eyelet on the corner. And then at that time I didn't even know yet what I was going to add into the eyelet. But then I decided to add a bulldog clip, and instead of adding a charm, I had the idea of adding little strips of lace. So I picked two smaller lace trims that I have, and I'm just adding two little pieces by folding them in half and pinning them through with the bulb pin and then attaching that to my eyelet, and I actually think that looks really cute. It's actually like shabby chic style, isn't it? It's a style I don't do very often, but I really love that on this cover, I must admit, and I think it really works well with the other pieces of lace that I have there, and also with the photo of that young lady. So here I'm just trying to put it through the eyelet. There, so I think that's really cute. So that goes in there. The other one I decided to leave as it is. And then I'm adding another one into that pocket of the soap bag or soap pocket. And then I decided it's still not grungy enough. This was then again, I think the next day. So I cover up her face, and I think I actually cover it up with something bigger because I thought I don't want to get any sprays on her. So I decided to take my coffee mixture and spray it all over so that I get some nice coffee spots. After that had dried, I was looking at it and I thought, it's too much. Like, it's just too in your face, it's too obvious. I didn't really like it. I mean, I liked the coloring, but I didn't like these very dominant spots. So I decided to soften those with a damp baby wipe, which worked actually quite well. I was very happy with how that turned out after I just kind of softened everything up. And this is, of course, all very individual of what you might like and what not. And then I decided it needs something else still on the cover. So I took the stencil and my homemade texture paste. I will link the video again for you below if you want to see how that is made. It will have the video and the recipe that I followed. It is super simple. And I think I need to make more soon because I'm starting to run out. And I decided to put the stenciling in all four corners just to give it more texture and more interest. I just thought the cover was still too plain. So now doing the top two corners. And finally the fourth one. And then I decided it still needs some more contrast, so I took some black acrylic paint and I'm thinning it down with water, and I'm just going to have some splashes there with my fan brush. And I just tapped it lightly, but a lot came out the first time, so that was a lot more spots than I wanted up there, but actually in the end it was fine. And I added some on the bottom as well. I didn't want to add it all over the cover, just in some areas. And then I decided I also need some more depth where the collage is. So I took this graphite pencil and I'm going around first just around her. And then I'm going to take my water brush and I'm going to dilute the edge, and this makes her pop off the background a lot better. I'm really happy I did that. I should have done that before I glued her down completely. Yeah, so now taking my water brush and fanning that out. You can also use a water-soluble black pencil if you have, or a dark brown would work as well. And then I liked that so much that I thought, okay, I need to do this actually for all the layers because I want all of the layers to come out, and I wanted the whole thing to just look a lot more dimensional, even though it actually was dimensional because there are a lot of beautiful layers there, but I think they all just popped a lot better after adding all of these shadows around all of the elements. It's really interesting for me to see this edited video and to see how easy everything looks like. It kind of looks like I knew what I was doing, right? It's so interesting because you don't know the struggles I went through with this cover to finally have a result that I was super happy with. I even texted Maureen in between and I said, you know, this is what it is now. I don't know, something's not right yet. And surely enough, then the next day I added the final touches and it was all was well. But it's really funny because you don't see that. Of course, you don't see any of that in the video, and it really looks like, oh, I've done this 100 times. But believe me, it was a struggle for me as well. So this is the final result. I'm just adding the tickets here and the other card. and really pleased with this. I hope it inspired you to experiment some more, to use your packaging. So next, I guess I have to make an insert for this journal. I hope you will join me for that as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and as always, you know I love you guys.
Mwah! Mwah!